They're causing like massive problems, stealing, crime, and they say that they have these theft rings and these crime rings where they will steal in New York, then they somehow spend the money in Florida, and then they go back to New York and steal. People say, well, why don't they steal in Florida? They say because in Florida, when you steal, you go to jail, and they know that, and they're not so. So you can see why people are fleeing some of those areas. They can't even keep the streets safe. They can't even keep homeless off the streets. It's been really, really problematic in many parts of our country. So we're doing it right here, and people are voting with their feet. Our unemployment rate has been lower than the nation's unemployment rate for 38 consecutive months. And we have the lowest unemployment rate of any large state and the #1 GDP growth of any large state over these last many years. Our over-the-year private sector job growth rate has exceeded the nation's for 33 consecutive months. So you see what's on. Now, part of the reason we've been able to do this is because we have a good business climate, we have no income tax, we have law and order, we have good education, but we've also understood that you have to make investments in infrastructure and workforce, and we've done that in a variety of contexts. Since 2019, we have done almost $200 million through the governor's job growth grant fund. So those are awards that we do from our office, and we've done them here locally, we've done them in other parts of the state for either workforce or for infrastructure. So it may be something where you expand a program, nursing program, commercial driver's license, or maybe it's something where you're supporting infrastructure. So we've done roads to link different highways so that you can have more industrial capacity. So there's all kinds of opportunities, and so we've looked very closely at those. We've also done $82 million through the Rural Infrastructure Fund since 2019. And we did make an award in December to the city of Wauchula to conduct an inland port feasibility study, and we've done this really all throughout rural Florida since 2019. So we're really excited about that. And then we've done a lot on roads. We did Moving Florida Forward last year. We have this massive budget surplus. We've actually paid down debt since I've been governor. Almost about 25% of Florida's total debt that we've had, we've paid it down. So we now have the lowest per capita debt in the entire United States amongst all 50 states. If you're talking about your share of the national debt as an American citizen, it's over $100,000 for each and every U.S. citizen. Florida, your share of our state debt as a Floridian is like $600. I mean, so that's night and day to what's happening there. And so we're excited. But even with all that, paying down debt, running surplus, I mean, we had a lot of surplus money. We did the biggest tax relief that we've ever done in the history of Florida in this current fiscal year, including permanent elimination of sales tax on all baby items. So diapers, wipes, strollers, cribs, clothes, all that stuff is permanently tax-free in the state of Florida. And we did many other great tax relief. So we're doing all that, but then we're still doing investments. And so we did $4 billion for Moving Florida Forward to say, okay, where are some of the areas that we need to accelerate some of these projects because the state's growing. Look, I'm not out asking for people to move to Florida. Like, we've got a great state. Some governors they'll beg, oh, please come to our state. I'm not doing that, but people are voting with their feet. And as an American, you have a right to move to different states. So we've seen increase in population, and we're trying to get ahead of that by doing these infrastructure. So that's really huge. And we're proud of doing that. Now, one of the key components of infrastructure has been what we've done to expand broadband access, particularly in Florida's rural communities. In 2023, we launched $470 million in investments in 60 of our 67 counties to fund the necessary infrastructure for connecting more than 300,000 homes, businesses, schools, libraries, and hospitals to high-speed internet. And the thing about rural broadband, yes, obviously we have rural counties. People know that, and that's important. But there's really significant need for rural broadband in some of our most populated counties because you'll have some that may have a pretty big land mass and people focus on the city and all that, but then you have areas that are more remote and they haven't had access. And so this money has gone to counties that have 1.5 million people, because there are spots where they didn't have adequate access. So federal, people focus on like, okay, what's the federal versus state? We didn't wait for the federal government. The federal government has started to do stuff on this, but we created our own broadband opportunity grant program long before any federal broadband money ever came to the state of Florida. So it just shows you how we're ahead. And so today, we're very pleased to say we're going to continue with this commitment. I'm proud to say that in Hardee County today, we're able to announce an award of $223 million to expand both access to broadband throughout Florida. And this will be something that'll be a collaboration of $135 million through our own state broadband opportunity program. That'll do more than 27,000 homes, schools, businesses, and community facilities. And then we're going to take $86 million from the federal multi-purpose community facilities program for facilities that provide internet access to rural and remote communities. Now, nearly 138 million of the grants are through our state broadband opportunity grant program. There's going to be 54 projects awarded in 33 counties. So that's going to make a huge impact. We are going to be able to do $4 million award for the Hardee County Technology, Economic Development, and Workforce Training Hub project in Wauchula. And so we're happy. I think I have that check that we'll present here in a minute. But this was proposed by the Hardee County Industrial Development Authority, and this is something that we're happy to be able to assist with. So I think that that'll make a big difference, and we're happy to be able to be here to be able to present that check today. So today's award brings our total investment through our state broadband opportunity grant program and all the other areas that we have to almost $700 million for 234 projects in 63 of 67 Florida counties. So that's a really big deal. Now, even though we took the lead on this and have used a lot of state resources, we are distributing some of these federal grants, but what we're running into is federal government wants to put a lot of strings. They want to attach a lot of strings on this money. And there was a lot of news this week about the FCC's new digital discrimination rule, where they're basically going to police internet service providers and try to look at racial and ethnic quotas based on the customer base. That is not going to work. That is not something that is acceptable. They don't have the authority to be doing this. I know that there's a movement in Congress to oppose that, but this is just really one of many instances where the Biden administration is trying to condition funding on really having to enact left-wing policies. And we've rejected those policies in Florida at the ballot box for many years now. And so they shouldn't be able to shoehorn that on top of us here. And so, for example, they're trying to do things related to global warming on Federal Highway Administration's rule requiring states to set carbon emission targets and report them to the feds. They don't have authority to do that. That's not something that's Florida's policy. In 2022, the Biden administration attempted to tie billions in education funding to a USDA rule change on how it interprets Title IX with respect to the sports. Florida has protected women's sports. We've said that girls have a right to compete with fairness and integrity. You have some boy go and compete and then set all the records. It's ridiculous what's happening around this country. So we did it right, and we said, here you're going to do. They were going to take away school lunch money from states that protected women's sports. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so what we're doing in Florida is basically saying to the feds that they can go pound sand. We are not going to be following this illegal and unconstitutional guidance. We're going to continue to stand for what's right, and we're going to continue to stand for the people of Florida. So this is a great investment today. I'm going to call up some other folks, but before, I'll go ahead and do the check presentation. So we got it right here. Renee, do you want to? All right. 4 million smackers. Congratulations. All right, so we're going to hear from Secretary Kelly, Representative Tuck, and then Chair Wyatt. So, Alex, you can come up.
Well, Governor, thank you so much, and everyone, thank you for having us here today. It's great to be here in Hardee County, and the Governor really, explained, what today is about so well. I just really want to give some backdrop, in our role, the Florida Department of Commerce, and how we really look at, these kind of grants, these kind of dollars, how we work with communities like Hardee County to make these awards, and really that process, because I think it's so special to be here in particular, because this grant application, thinking about the application Hardee County specifically put forward, it really was one of the ones that really stood out the most to us, because it was so much about what the governor's talked about, the leadership and vision he's given us around really what are the community's infrastructure needs, workforce needs, how do those tie back to education, how does all that work together? This is one of the best applications that we've seen in the last couple of years, where truly it was a true synergy of all those things. We're seeing some great work coming forward from Hardee County. We're seeing some great work coming forward from our rural communities. And where we fit in, the Florida Department of Commerce, we launched our broadband office back in 2020. The legislature gratefully supported the Broadband Opportunity Grant Program. The governor mentioned, we've worked over the last few years to help every single county start its own local planning, local technology planning team, so that every county around the state has a voice, has an ownership role in how dollars like this, resources like this are going to be spent. Before today, the governor mentioned before today coming into these announcements, the awards that we rolled out we're going to serve about 300,000 or so residences, schools, businesses, and so forth. Today's awards will take us almost up to about 340,000. Again, residents, homes, businesses, schools around the state, and that really means something at a real human, personal level. If you think about what that means, especially in our rural counties, especially in those remote communities, even some of our urban counties, that's kids getting to do their homework at night. That's people getting to apply for a job. Most job applications these days, most interviews these days are online. That's a person trying to get that job. That's a person trying to take that class at night. Maybe they work during the day, they're taking that class at night, and they're trying to make a difference for their family. That's emergency management. That's the ability of our law enforcement and first responders to respond to a need, to have actual timely, complete information quickly. So these dollars, what we're doing here today, that's credit card transactions going through a small business. If that small business can't get that transaction through, that might be a sale they don't get. So these are real needs at a real human, personal level. And for what we do, the Department of Commerce working on these grant programs, it's a community partnership. We've been able to partner with CareerSource, with Adria Johnston and her team at CareerSource, and the local workforce boards around the state on some of these grants. 5 of the grants being rolled out today are partnerships with local workforce boards. 4 of the grants today are partnerships with state colleges around the state, because these are hubs of connectivity for the community where learning, workforce development, all of these things occur in the same place. And some of these grants too, just want to think about some of the communities that are getting connectivity through these grants. Lake Butler in Union County, Groveland in Lake County, Cross City in Levy County, Lake Panasoffkee, kind of there in Marion in Sumter County, Hosford in Liberty County, Belle Glade on the western edge of Palm Beach County, Sopchoppy in Wakulla County, Olustee in Baker County. Governor, we were there in Steinhatchee in Taylor County. Steinhatchee is way off the beaten path, is getting support through these grants that otherwise it probably wouldn't happen. And when I think about those places, Olustee and Baker County, remote community, North Florida, that 23 years ago, I spent time at, as I was a young legislative aide, working in the legislature, and I would travel probably every other week from Jacksonville, that area, over to Tallahassee, and I would always take the more scenic route on 90 rather than I-10, and I would travel through Olustee, and I've probably been through that community, tiny remote community, probably 50 times over the years, but I hadn't been there about 21 years until just about 4 weeks ago, and I drove through Olustee, and what stood out to me is it looked the same, and I'm all for the character of a community kind of remaining, but 21 years later, it looked the same. And that shouldn't be. Every community should have that access to education, jobs, and those sort of connective opportunities. And that shouldn't be, you have a community that 21 years later looks exactly the same. So that's what these grants are about, is connecting for those communities and really kind of bringing whatever that vision is. Really, again, really excited to see the application that Hardee County put forward. I think it's going to create jobs, it's going to create opportunity. And so we're Department of Commerce, we're in it for the long haul with you, looking forward to supporting this grant, getting it launched, seeing shovels in dirt, backhaul work going, and seeing job creation. So again, thank you, Governor, for your leadership. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Tuck.
Governor, thank you for having me here today, and thank you all for being here today. It's good to be back home for a little bit. And this conversation is so important. We, with your administration's support, Speaker Renner's legacy was universal school choice, which has created unprecedented access to online educational options. At the same time, in a post-COVID environment, you may have professionals who telecommute to a job in New York, and you may have 3, 4, 5 different people who are all fighting for internet access in the same household. The conversation has never been more important. The need for reliable broadband access has never been more prevalent, but the strain on rural communities like ours has never been felt more than it is today. So it's an honor to stand with you today. I can't thank you enough, Governor, for your investment in our community, and this is going to be an incredible day for our area. Thank you.
So I'll introduce myself. I'm Commissioner Renee Wyatt with the Hardee County Board of County Commissioners. And I just want to say that with the board, my fellow commissioners are here, our county manager, Senator Denise Grimsley with the development group, the IDA board, Representative Tuck, we can't thank you enough for all of the efforts that you do for our community as well. And Governor, it's so good to see you here again. You come every time we've called. And it was really nice to hear that Hardee County has the same visions as Governor DeSantis and his reign in our state. You do a wonderful job for our community, and we can't thank you enough. So, thank you. I'm not as good at reading as Governor is, so I also have to wear my glasses, so forgive me for that. You've kickstarted all of our hearts with this award. I can't tell you how exciting it is for all of us. The award for this facility will provide an opportunity for the citizens to access telehealth. It'll provide mentors for entrepreneurs and generate small businesses, as well as create needed housing. The facility itself is going to be a result of a 3-story building, and it's something that we've all been discussing for some time now with the plans that we've been trying to build for the future of this community, for our county. The first floor is going to be designated for a culinary incubator. The second floor will be a traditional incubator that will feature office spaces, classrooms, and computer lab. The third floor will be added as much needed residential condos. And this facility is going to be even more with this broadband access. I cannot stress enough how important it is for such a small rural community like this. And also, I would like to say, this gentleman right here, we could not thank you enough for bringing him to this community and appointing President Hawkins to this college. We love having him. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about him, and I got to meet him and have a discussion this morning. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for everything, and we appreciate you.
Great. Well, we're excited about this award. And, in our first term, I think I was the first governor to do public events in all 67 counties. And so we'll do that again in the second term. I know we've done a lot already in the last year, but we're going to do more. But part of the reason we do that is because when you do them, you show up and you bring something, either a good announcement or you bring a check. And so that's what we're doing today with this. And, it definitely got to the point when people see me rolling into their communities, they figure something was going to happen that was positive. So we're excited about that. We're going to make sure that we get around and do that. And I think that our administration has been one that's been very we understand that you can focus on a handful of very populated areas, and those are important areas to our state. But you have to also do things for our rural communities, and so we've put a lot of elbow grease into that, and we'll continue to do that as we go through these next few years. Also, just want to say just a couple things about some of the stuff going on. Yesterday, we announced that we're sending even more support to the southern border to help Texas fortify against what's happening. And we were the first state to send in 2021. We've sent Florida Highway Patrol. We've had National Guard. We've had Florida Fish and Wildlife. We've had Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and they've been there on the ground continuously in recent months, especially. But we also said, you know what? They have all this situation where Texas is fortifying, so we're going to do more to help fortify. So we did authorize National Guard as well as the Florida State Guard. So no state has done more to help secure this country's border out that's not a border state than the state of Florida has, because we understand that a country either has a border or it's not a country. And so we have to establish this border. So we're doing it. And Biden could do this if he wanted to. I mean, he doesn't need legislation. I know they're working on it. Everything I've heard about it is that it's a disaster, what they're doing in Washington, because, they're servicing other interests rather than your interests. But he could do it right now if he wanted to. And instead, what they're doing is he has threatened to actually go in and remove barricades that Texas has put up to let more people come into this country illegally. And you see some of these images, you see some of these people in New York City committing crimes, and the sense of entitlement on some of these illegal aliens is unbelievable. They act like they have a right to illegally come into our country. I'm sorry, you do not have that right. And if we were a country that was serious, we'd be sending these people back home to their home countries. That's how you enforce the rule of law. Biden's not doing that. He could secure the border if he wanted to, and he's choosing not to do it. So I don't think they're going to end up with any type of legislation that's going to actually solve the problem. I think in some respects it may codify the problems and kind of give Biden a campaign issue to where he says, oh, well, they wouldn't give me the authority. He has the authority now. If he wanted to do it, he could do it. Second thing is we are looking at this whole ESG. We did a big piece of legislation last year, environment, social governance. It's a lot of big companies, asset managers, Wall Street banks trying to impose an agenda on society through the economy, not through the constitutional process. They're trying to impose policies that can't win at the ballot box. So they're very much opposed to reliable energy development. They're opposed to agriculture, modern agriculture practices. They're opposed to things like Second Amendment, all kinds of things that they want to impose through that. So we said in Florida, no. You want access to our market? Do normal business. And so we told banks, you have to attest. You're not requiring ESG. You're not allowed to do things like social credit scores. And some of this stuff, they really want to go after agriculture, how they do. They blame agriculture for global warming. I know the legislature's doing a bill to try to protect our meat. You need meat, okay? And we're going to have meat in Florida. Like, we're going to have fake meat. Like, that doesn't work. So we're going to make sure to do it right. But there's a whole ideological agenda that's coming after, I think, a lot of important parts of our society. And like Florida, obviously we have a lot of agriculture. Florida also relies on reliable energy to power our electric grid, particularly in the face of natural disasters. When Hurricane Ian came through, we got the lights back on because we had access to reliable energy. If we had to rely on windmills and solar panels, we would not have gotten the lights back on when we did. So we're very sensitive to that. So the ESG, it's just bad news. And a lot of these Wall Street banks, they had to attest under our law that they're not imposing ESG on their customers as a way for doing business. And yet it seems like some of them are still doing that. So we're looking at all this, but suffice it to say, we're going to make sure that our legislation is enforced because we think it's important. We don't think, first of all, these are bad policies that they're trying to do. why would we want to give to a handful of very wealthy companies the ability to impose this social change on our country without our consent? That's just not the way you should do business. They could never achieve these policies through the ballot box. They would lose elections if they ran candidates who were advocating this stuff. And so this is basically doing an end run around the constitutional system to be able to really do significant policy and social change. So we're protecting people in Florida from that. And I wouldn't want to delegate that to any group of companies. But if we had to, these would be the last companies I would want to be imposing their views on us, because they don't have your best interests at heart. So we're going to be locked in on this. We understand it's an important fight, and we'll make sure that we're able to win the fight. And the good thing about Florida, if we were our own country, we'd be the 14th largest economy in the world. So we have the ability to weigh in on this, I think, in ways that are meaningful. And then finally, I just say, I'm hearing reports that Biden may unilaterally recognize the existence of a Palestinian Arab state. And I can't think of anything more ridiculous for him to do at this juncture than that. Just think about it. You have Hamas attack Israel, one of the worst terrorist attacks in modern times, more Jews killed on October 7th than at any day since the Holocaust. And yet the response is going to be to recognize a Palestinian Arab state? I mean, you got to be kidding me with this. And so I don't know what they're going to end up doing, but I think that that'd be a huge, huge mistake to do that. The fact of the matter is, Hamas and other Palestinian Arabs, they don't want their own state. They want the annihilation of Israel. They want the annihilation of the Jewish state. That is what motivates them. And so if you recognize a Palestinian Arab state, all that's doing is creating a stepping stone to the destruction of Israel. So that's a total non-starter. And if he does that, I think it would be one of the biggest mistakes that a president's made in modern time. But he's given Jimmy Carter a run for his money. That's all I can tell you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Scott.
It's interesting studying history and watching the events of 2020 to 2024 transpire, and watching the slow dissolution of America and so many people out there wring their hands over it and say, oh no, we're becoming balkanized. Oh no, this is happening and that's happening. But to be honest, here in Florida, it can't happen fast enough. There's an old Bugs Bunny cartoon I'm sure a lot of the people in my audience will remember, since you're mostly Gen X and older, where it shows Bugs Bunny taking a saw and starting just north of Jacksonville at Georgia and literally cutting all across the northern border of Florida and having Florida just kind of drift off into the Caribbean. That's kind of where most Floridians are, to be very honest. And some people like it, some people don't. Unless you've been here and lived here and understand the culture and understand truly why we are so different, you won't get it. You just will not get it. Even other people from the South, a lot of them don't get it. We've had folks come, here from Louisiana, North Carolina, Texas, Missouri, and we're still even too far right for them. And the way, actually, absolutely right. Hot Damn Graham said what I wanted to say, but I didn't say. If you don't like it, leave. That's kind of the way it is. And the governor elucidated this very early. If you want to go back and rewatch this live when it posts, right off the bat, he was talking about how up in northern states, they go up there, these gangs, these criminal thugs that are coming here, and they'll go to the northern states and they'll rob and steal, and then they'll bring all of their ill-gotten gain down here to Florida, and then they'll sell it down here for money. And some ask, well, why don't they just stay in Florida and rob in Florida? Because they know they try their bullshit, their northern bullshit up there here in Florida, they're going to get tossed under a prison, and that's it. We just don't tolerate it. Now, we of course are doing everything we can to interdict the stolen goods, but once again, it's free Florida. Anybody who understands history understands that at the founding of this country, how many of you out there watched black sails? How many of you out there, I know it's been a year or two since I recommended it, maybe I should start talking about it again. How many of you out there have sat down and watched the series Black Sails? It's very instructive of what true liberty can lead to. There was a huge amount of resource when they discovered the New World that was just here for the taking, and a lot of guys came here and did the right thing, and they created lumber companies and sugar companies and cotton, all this kind of stuff. And they built boats and they came here and they brought it back to the old world and sold it. Well, they're also pirates. There were also a great deal of pirates. And they became very wealthy by pirating things. And of course, they commandeered entire islands. And when they commandeered entire islands, you got basically what you saw in black sails. And you had brothels everywhere, and you had money exchanges, and you had all sorts of underhanded dealings. And one of the hallmarks of freedom and liberty is a certain level of illicit activity. In countries and places that are not free, you will see tyranny rear its ugly head in a way that causes a great deal of quote-unquote safety. Now, I'm not going to waste a whole lot more of your time today. I wanted the governor to speak for himself. I wanted you guys to hear is why is Florida so different than every other country, every other state? Every other state is scrounging for people, and he's we need more people, we need more economic activity. And the governor even said, those of you who heard it, I'm not even asking for people to come to Florida anymore. If you want to come, that's great, but you're going to play by our rules. If you want to come, you want to be part of it, not going to be cheap, and you're going to play by our rules, or you can get the hell out. Now, real quick, I just want to show something. I love you, Florida Maquis. Why do you talk about Patreon so much? Even with the Antarctica, it's always Patreon. Let me show you something about PSYOPs. Ready for this? Here's CNN. Wall Street reacts to gangbuster jobs report. January jobs report showed America economy adds a stunning 353,000 jobs. And here's CNN talking about how great the economy is and how fantastic the economy is, okay? Now, who saw the news all over YouTube? 5 months ago, this channel did a video talking about UPS and what it was getting ready to do to the American people. They cut this huge blockbuster deal where they got all these billions of dollars in raises and concessions, and how the average driver was going to make over $100,000 a year and all this kind of stuff, and how great it was for UPS. Well, now it's come time to pay the piper. Here we are only 5 months later. I had a video demonetized because I showed basically, it's hard to describe without demonetizing this video. But basically it was, well, I can't even describe it, but it was somewhat adult and controversial about, well, I can't even talk about it. It's too R-rated. You'd have to see it over at Patreon. But UPS to cut 12,000 jobs 5 months after agreeing. Now, those of you out here who are good at math, if the average worker was going to make $100,000 a year, if the average worker was going to make $100,000 a year, what's 12,000 times 100,000? 12,000 100,000s is 12 billion. That's right. So all these billions of dollars in concessions, now they're clawing back. They're clawing them all back. You see, this is what they do. Now, here's Fox, the right-wing home, okay? Calls multiply for Biden to use executive action to fix border catastrophe. What do all three of these stories have in common? CNN talking about how great the economy is. But then we know that CBS saying, well, no, UPS is saying that, they don't need 12,000 people because they're not forecasting a very good summer. And here's what the government, basically, here's the story. You ready for this? Ronald Reagan covered it a long time ago. If more government is the answer, then it was a really stupid question. You see, that's the psyop of it all. No matter whether you're upset about what's going on, what the government is or isn't doing, how many channels have you heard pounding their fist and waggling their finger? The Constitution says the government should blah, blah, blah. The Constitution says the government can't or can't, and the government and Biden needs to stop. All this stuff is all basically the idea that every problem in the world has government as its solution. And if anything is going good in the world, if anything is positive, if anything is upbeat, that's because we have this really good government. Do you see the problem? Do you see it now? What they're doing? This is why I talk about Patreon. This is what they don't usually allow me to talk about here on YouTube. The psychological operations that are being used to make you believe, whether you're upset or whether you're super excited and positive, you have to attach it to a government activity. It's the government's reason. It's the government's fault you're happy. In next November, if Trump gets reinstalled as president, that'll be the great fix of everything. And if he doesn't, that'll be the reason everything fails. It'll all be tied to government. It's a complete abdication of responsibility. Everything ties to government. And that is why we have the Patreon channel. I've tried to point people to it. I've tried to ask. I've set it at the lowest possible level of only $1 single, not per day, not per video, not per week, per month. For 3 pennies, literally 3 pennies per day. 3 pennies per day. Not only would you help me to give parity against the controllers on YouTube, you would also have access to military level psyops. And I was waiting for somebody to put the quote up. And we know 828, scariest words ever spoken. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Reagan would be rolling over in his grave right now. She probably is. That if you're happy about things and you blame government, or you're sad or angry and you blame government, the fact that it's all government, government, government. That's the big win. That's the big win for the deep state. All of you out there who are like, oh, deep state this, deep state that, deep state the other. You can talk about exposing this, exposing that, exposing whatever. Doesn't change anything, does it? Doesn't change anything. And the reason I did today's video the way that I did it, with the title and with the governor, is because here in Florida, what he was announcing was basically the idea of government showing up and saying to a certain county, government in Florida, here's a bunch of money we had left over. Basically what the governor was doing was this. Here's a whole bunch of money the governor's office, and the state has left over. We heard that you had a need and that you had this desire to do something for yourself. Olustee County, Olustee or Harding County, I can't remember which one it was. And here you go. Here you go. You had this wonderful idea about what you thought you wanted to do for yourself, people of that county. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to show up today. Here's your check. You go make your life better. You go make your life better. You do what you need to do to go make your life better. God bless you. That was the message. And if that's not a form of secession from Washington, D.C., I don't know what is. I don't know what is. And Marianne, I'm banned from X. If you think the X platform is some freedom-loving place because billionaire Musk is there, I am lifetime banned. I am lifetime banned from the X platform. Do you know why? I offended a sodomite. I offended a very popular sodomite that I'm sure a lot of you probably would think is on your side. And because I said something that bothered that sodomite, I am permanently and completely banned from the X platform. I appealed it 7 times. I appealed it 7 times and it was rejected 7 times. And that's fine. That tells me everything I need to know. It tells me that I'm on the right track. That there's places God will lead you where you're supposed to go. And when you try to go places you ain't supposed to be, he will keep you from that. So, yeah, a lot of people try to find me over on the X platform because they think Elon Musk is another savior. You know, running to the billionaires as if there's some kind of savior. He's part of the group. You believe me, if he wasn't part of the group, he would end up where Julian Assange is. He will end up where the guy they just sentenced to 40 years in prisons has gone. They get rid of people that are a problem to the sodomite agenda. If you don't think this is the case, a lot of people think, oh, you just have a problem with the folks who aren't like you. Nope. Absolutely not. I mean, I do have a problem with them, but believe me, the real enemy isn't, quote unquote, the Democrats, so to speak. Because this group has infiltrated both parties. This group has infiltrated both parties. And they were look, go read the Bible. Go read the Bible. God sent hail and brimstone, fiery hail and brimstone, to completely destroy and obliterate cities that had fallen under the control of these forces. And you want to know why we have a migrant invasion? You want to know why they're not securing the border? You want to know why? Marianne T., think of the most popular conservative sodomite you can probably imagine. And you can search that on your own. I've actually talked about him a couple of times on this channel, but I won't anymore. But believe me, they have an agenda and it's working behind the scenes, and there's a group who wants to literally control the growth of population and who is allowed to and who isn't allowed to, who is allowed to raise kids, who isn't allowed to raise kids, all this kind of stuff. But I will leave that there before I get this demonetized. So anyway, that's the reality. And go back, and like I said, this will post as an actual video once the live stream is over. It takes a while to process. But trust me on this one. Trust me on this one, guys. For $1, for $1 US, believe me, there are hundreds of videos. We're not talking about 6 videos or 7 videos or 10 videos. There are hundreds of videos that have never before been seen on YouTube or any other platform that are available at Patreon. We've been making these videos for a long time, talking about a lot of subjects. And for $1 a month, $1 a month, you have access to them. And it would mean a lot. It really would. There's a $1 level. There's a handful of videos over there for the folks that have decided to sign up at the $5 level. It wasn't even something I asked for. I had people that were signing up saying, I'd like to pledge more. And it got to be enough people that I'm like, well, maybe I should probably make a few videos for them. So I did. But yeah, it's honest to God, and we know 828 is a brain training thing. If you don't see it, if you are being conditioned to not see it, you won't see it. But once you take away all of the clutter, you'll see what they're really trying to do. Once they have control of your mind, once they have control of your psychology, I don't care how much of a prepper you are. Believe me, I'm all about being prepared and being ready, and whenever things fall apart. I don't care how many buckets of beans you have. I don't care how many boxes or magazines full of bullets you have. I don't care how many giant containers of Band-Aids you have. I don't care how much you know about herbs. I don't care how much you know about survival. I don't care how much you know about any of it or what you have. The minute you lose control of your mind, the minute you allow yourself to be manipulated, all that will be used against you. Every single bit of it. If you don't train your mind, if you don't harden your mind, if you don't create your mind as a battle space, they'll come take it from you. And you'll just have done their work for them. That's all you'll have done. So beans, bullets, band-aids, all bullshit if you don't get control of your brain. And very few people talk about it. So I will leave that there. God bless all of you who've been here. Very much appreciate it, Peter. And we know 828, Marianne. Let me scroll back here. Kenneth was here for a while. He had to go to work. Jamie Hiller. Renee. Patrick. Surfer. As always, Digital Revolution. Southern Grits. Hot Damn Graham. Forgotten Country. JP, thank you everyone very, very much. Digital Revolution, I think I might have said that. All you guys, thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Deaf Bread, I sure do appreciate you guys' support. Like, for sure, smash the like button. Share this with folks, and also share the Patreon as well. Tell them, look, it's worth your dollar. It's worth your single dollar per month. Try giving a single dollar to a guy begging on the street and you'll get your eyes rolled. Here, you get thankfulness. Here, you get gratitude. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.